Hey guys, Axel here. Today's video is going to be about the InAwaken Dawn. It's a new brand called InAwaken. This is their first IM, and this is the box. So this review is going to be, I'm going to show you what comes in the box quickly, and then I will describe the sound, how it sounded to my ears, and then I will compare it to the Kefine Delci and the Simgot EW300, because I think I will highlight the differences in the sound, and this will kind of give you an accurate picture of the sound quality of this IM, at least according to my ears. So let's begin. This is the case that comes with the InAwaken Dawn. It's a nice case. It's a pocketable case. You can carry it in your pocket. And then you get two types of ear tips. You get like 6 pairs total, 3 of each. Silicone ear tips, nice. The case is nice. And then you get this cable. It's a thin type of cable. Could tangle because of this part above the chin cinch slider. And yeah, it's not, the slider slides sometimes, like you can see. It's not a big issue, but there you go. The cable is nice. Like, I have no issues with it, me personally. And this is the IMs themselves. Have to say, they look beautiful. They look gorgeous. You know, it has like a purple diaphragm, and you can see that if you look at this IM. And there is a tube that supposedly carries the air. I'm not sure exactly. There's only one vent, which you can see here, like below the 2-pin connector. You can see that here. And unfortunately for me, there is driver flex on both sides. Again, it's a minor issue, but for the sake of being complete with this review, I wanted to mention it. In terms of nozzle diameter, I will post the measurements, and fit and comfort is great. You can see the shape of the earpiece. It sits in my ear. It has like no like protrusions or anything like that, and I have no issues with the comfort. That's it. Now let's begin talking about the sound. Let's bring on the graph and let's look at the sound signature. This IM is actually pretty unique in the terms of the way it presents the sound, and I will start with the sub bass. Okay, let's talk about the bass in general, but let's start with the sub bass. Now, the sub bass here actually is present. There's a good amount of sub bass, but you're not exactly going to get a lot of rumble. And on my test tracks and with my comparisons, I began to notice that the rumble is very gentle, but the sub bass, the amount is there. But where the bass, the majority of the bass lies, is in the mid bass. And it's not exactly like a punchy, like, you know, type of bit. It has punch. It has a good amount of slam. On bass heavy tracks, it gives you that slam. It gives you that attack and boom. But it's more, I would describe it more as a meaty type of bass, a thick type of bass, a good amount of bass that acts as a background bass presence in all the tracks. You gotta get a good amount of powerful low end. You always get that heft, that, you know, that powerful bass in the background. But it's not going to grab your attention with the texture. It's not the most textured, and it's not going to grab your attention with the punch and slam. For example, like something like the EW300, that is something that the punch and slam immediately grabs your attention. This one has a good slam, it has a good punch, but it's more of, as I said, thick, meaty type of bass that acts as a powerful low-end background to most of the music. Still, the bass is impressive, and I like it. I like this amount of bass. I think it's tuned well. And that's the description of the bass. Now, you might notice a slight bass bleed that's going on in the mid-range, but to my ears, I didn't hear it, actually. And I think this has to do with the way the mid-range is tuned. Now, the mid-range is tuned in a way that is very forward. Like, and to be honest, it has a lot of clarity, right? It has a lot of clarity. Let me be clear about that. You get a lot of highlighted, detailed mid-range, like actually like shoved in your face. You hear the instruments very close to your ear. Whether electric guitars, whether male and female vocals, all these things sound very close to your ear. The instruments sound very, very good. But I have to say that this is the edge of what I would listen to in terms of the energy of the mid-range. Like, for me personally, I couldn't use high volume with this set. Like, this is not, for me at least, this is not a high volume set. This is a mid-volume set. And for the mid-range, with mid-volume, it's great, all right? But the moment you start to raise the volume, or you start to listen to energetic types of genres of music, or even vocals, you know, I began to notice to my ears that the vocals began to sound a bit thin, slightly thin. I would say even slightly, just slightly on higher volume, slightly shrill. And I know the bass. I know the bass shelf is there and it should add thickness, but to my ears, I didn't get that thickness. I got that thickness with some of the male vocals, but still the majority of the vocals, male and female vocals, could be a bit thin for my taste. And this is not because of the way this IM sounds or anything. It's just because the way, the Harman-like type of mid-range, it like has this ability to give you that type of slightly thin like mid-range. And you can test this even easily, like for example something like Barry White. I didn't get the thickness that I usually get, and I have that thickness on the Simgot EW300. I have that thickness on the Delci. I have even like something like the Kiwi Ears KE4. These kind of things sounded more natural to me. They have the natural timbre and tonality of the mid-range that sounded more correct, whereas here, yes, it's very clear, very highlighted, but depending on your preference and tolerance, like it could be too much or it could be okay. For me, it's on the edge. Like I wouldn't want 1 more dB of mid-range than that. I have to also emphasize that it's not shouty at all. This is not a shouty type of mid-range, but it's a very highlighted, forward, detailed mid-range that's just very close to your ear. And depending on the music, could be okay, or you might like want to listen at mid-volume. That's my experience with it. But what impressed me is the amount of clarity to it. And when we move on to the treble actually is done in a very nice way. It's very sparkly. It's emphasized as well. You should know that. Because on most of the tracks, the high frequencies are always there. I can hear the cymbal crashes very highlighted, very emphasized, never sibilant, never sharp, but just very detailed, and that makes it sound crispy, makes it sound sparkly, and this IM is one of those IMs that have a good amount of air. Imaging on this IM is what I would consider good. It's not like something that will like grab your attention or anything, and the sound stage is also good. Like it's not a wide sounding IM, but it's good. Like it's not narrow either, so that's something that's good. Overall level of detail and instrument separation, specifically in the mid-range, is impressive. Like this is one of the things like that I understand now why I was impressed with this IM on first listen. The amount of clarity you get from the mid-range, the amount of detail, the vocals, the instruments, the separation, the things that are close to your ear is just super impressive. You don't get that at this price, and you'll see that when we talk about the comparison segment. Let's start the comparison segment with the Kefine Delci, okay? One of my favorite IMs at this price range. Is just a great all-rounder. The difference is here, guys, number one is the bass, okay? The difference is huge, huge. It's not just a normal difference. It's huge. And I have to give the edge to the Kefine Delci. The amount of rumble that happens in the sub bass of the Delci on the same tracks at the same volume, and the amount of texture in the bass is just insane on the Delci. When you compare it, like that is the difference. The Delci gives you the higher quality bass. It gives you the texture. It gives you the sub bass rumble. It gives you the higher bass quality. Whereas on the InAwaken, it gives me that meaty type of bass presentation, the visceral type, the boom, in the background. You can actually feel the driver moving air against your ear. That is something. And in terms of the mid-range and in terms of overall level of detail, they're pretty similar, okay? They are pretty similar, but I have to give the edge to the InAwaken Dawn. It's just the way it highlights the mid-range, like makes a lot of the mid-range details pop out way more. Like the Delci sounds like a bit laid back in comparison when you compare them after each other. It's not laid back, but when you listen after the InAwaken Dawn, it sounds, the mid-range is a bit more tame. And in terms of the treble of the Delci is detailed. It's nice. It's what I want to hear. Whereas on the InAwaken Dawn, it has that crispy quality. It has that sparkle, that sizzle. It's always shimmery. It always has that sparkle. That's crispy. That's the way I would describe it. There's a lot of crisp, but it's a lot of highlight. You hear a lot of the treble more. So these are the differences between them. And in terms of the comparison with the Simgot EW300, another great IM. Let me compare it like that. In terms of the bass quality and texture, again, the Simgot EW300 is much better. And another thing now, the punch and slam, okay, of the bass, the attack, that boom factor, that punch in your face, I would give it to the Simgot EW300. It's much better in that regard. The bass is higher quality, and it grabs you. Like when you listen to EDM, it's like boom, boom, boom. it's definitely higher quality textured, more detailed, and it has more sub-bass rumble, and it has a lot of punch. I could describe this as a punchy bass, the EW300. And on the InAwaken, I would describe it like I said, it's like a meaty background, good amount of powerful low end. It has the heft behind it. Another thing is the EW300. I like the mid-range of the EW300 more. It's just more pleasing to me. It's inoffensive. You can listen to it at any volume you like, raise the volume, enjoy yourself for hours. It will never give you any of that feeling that's like it's almost edgy or anything like that. Whereas on the InAwaken Dawn, depending on the track, depending on your preferences and tolerances, I could like find myself like say, okay, that's a bit way too forward mid-range, you know. Definitely more clarity. And this is the surprising difference. The InAwaken Dawn, maybe it's not more detailed, but it definitely pushes that mid-range in your face. It gives you a lot of clarity, and on first listen, you kind of perceive that more easily. Let's say more easily, okay? And in terms of the treble, again, like the InAwaken Dawn gives you that crispy, that sparkling type of treble presentation, whereas on the EW300, I think it's more correct. It's more like incisive, it's more defined, it's more natural sounding in a way. Like that's what I want to hear. Whereas on the InAwaken Dawn, a simple crash, you're going to hear it. It's not sharp, it's not offensive in any way or sibilant, never, but it's just you're going to perceive it more as a highlighted sound. You know, it always kind of like grabs your attention. The EW300 also has a wider sound. The soundstage is better on the EW300, and the tonality is more pleasing to my ears. It has that warm sound, and if you listen to the male vocals, like I said, they have the richness, they have the fullness, they have the lushness. Male vocals, like as I said, like Metallica, Barry White, even vocals like listening to just vocal tracks, the EW300 just sounded natural to me. It has the better tonality, the better timbre. Whereas on the InAwaken, as I said, there's a slight thinness, a slight leanness going on with the male vocals specifically. It kind of depends on your preferences. And let me now do the comparison like this. Okay. If you want the best bass, like this is after like I listened to these 3 IMs for hours. If you want the best bass, the best texture, the best sub-bass rumble, the best quality bass, you're going to get it with the Kefine Delci. If you want the punch and the slam factor, you want that in your face, boom, 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 you're going to get it with the EW300, but it's not going to give you the texture of the Delci. It's not going to give you the sub-bass rumble of the Delci. The Delci is insane in that regard. If you want the best mid-range, the highlighted vocals, if you want like the instruments to be really close to your ear and sound highlighted, sound very detailed, sound very clear, the vocal clarity is great, it's going to go on to the InAwaken Dawn. This one, I would describe the InAwaken Dawn as mid-range clarity, mid-range highlight, mid-range forwardness. That's how I would describe. This is the best part about it, you know, for me at least. And if you want the most pleasing tonality, if you want the warm, neutral type of sound signature, the best balanced type of sound, if you want the best treble, the incisiveness, the detail, the clarity, without pushing it too much, I have to give it to the Simgot EW300. Like, this is my conclusion after listening to those 3 at the same volume right after each other. Who do I recommend it to before I finish this video? I recommend the InAwaken Dawn for people who like mid-range. If you know that you like the Harman type of mid-range and you like that type of vocal forwardness and highlight in your music, you want to hear a lot of the instruments, I recommend the InAwaken Dawn. If you want something that has good amount of bass and has like a sparkly type of treble presentation, I recommend the InAwaken Dawn. If you want something safer, that's more pleasing, I recommend the EW300. It's really better. It's safer for me, at least. Although it doesn't have the same clarity, but for me, it's just safer. It's better. And if you want the bass, like I said, the highest quality bass, the sub bass, that goes to the Kefine Delci. That's it, guys. That concludes our review of the InAwaken Dawn. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Like this video if you like my reviews. Subscribe for more content on this channel. And until then, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.